Get ready for a wild ride as we dive into the epic, glamorous, and totally iconic early years of Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, aka the one and only Jackie O. Born in the heart of New York City's high society, Jackie's childhood was a roller coaster of glitz, drama, and jaw-dropping moments that shaped her into a global legend. From family scandals that had everyone whispering to her fierce passion for adventure and style, we're spilling all the tea on how this trailblazer broke free from expectations. Picture her ruling horse shows, getting lost in books, soaking up Parisian vibes, and hustling as a fearless photojournalist in DC's power circles. This is the untold story of how a young dreamer became a cultural queen, setting the stage for a life that still inspires. So, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and let's uncover the spark that made Jackie O a timeless icon, perfect for anyone obsessed with history, style, and unstoppable vibes. On July 28, 1929, in the heart of New York City, Jacqueline Lee Bouvier came screaming into the world, born into a life of privilege that most could only dream of. Her family was the definition of old money. Her dad, John Jack Bouvier III, was a slick stockbroker with a megawatt smile and a charm that could win over anyone. Her mom, Janet Lee Bouvier, came from serious pedigree, being the daughter of a heavyweight bank president. On paper, it looked like Jackie was set for a fairy tale life, complete with fancy dresses and glittering parties. But hold up, things weren't as perfect as they seemed. Behind the polished exterior, Jackie's childhood was a roller coaster of family drama and sky-high expectations that would have tested anyone's spirit. Her parents' marriage? Total chaos. Jack and Janet were like oil and water, constantly clashing. And by 1942, when Jackie was just 13, they threw in the towel and got divorced. Back then, divorce wasn't just a personal matter. It was a full-blown scandal that had New York's high society whispering behind their champagne flutes. The split left Jackie caught in the middle, torn between two very different worlds. Her dad was the cool, free-spirited parent, always encouraging her to dream big and live a little. Jack was the kind of guy who'd sneak her an extra dessert and tell her she could do anything. Janet, on the other hand, was the ultimate enforcer of rules. After the divorce, she didn't skip a beat, remarrying a mega-wealthy guy named Hugh Auchincloss, who brought even more money and status to the family. Suddenly, Jackie was navigating a new stepdad, new step-siblings, and a whole new layer of pressure to uphold the family's elite image. Growing up in this high-stakes environment, Jackie had to figure out who she was while the world watched her every move. Her mom was like a high society drill sergeant, obsessed with molding Jackie into the perfect debutante. We're talking strict lessons on everything: how to sit, how to speak, how to walk like you owned the room without breaking a sweat. Janet's mantra was clear: perfection or nothing. Every detail, from Jackie's posture to her table manners, was scrutinized, and there was zero room for error. It was exhausting, like living under a microscope, but it also gave Jackie a steel backbone and a knack for keeping her cool under pressure, skills that would come in clutch later in life. But let's talk about young Jackie, because this girl was no cookie-cutter rich kid. She was a straight-up phenom with a personality that sparkled. For starters, she was obsessed with horses. By the time she was a preteen, she was already a pro equestrian, tearing up the competition at horse shows and collecting medals like they were candy. Riding wasn't just a hobby for her. It was a passion that gave her freedom, a way to escape the rigid rules of her world and feel the wind in her hair. Whether she was galloping through fields or perfecting her jumps, Jackie was a natural, and her trophy case was proof she wasn't just playing around. She was a legit champion. Horses weren't her only love, though. Jackie was a total book nerd, the kind of kid who'd sneak a flashlight under the covers to keep reading after bedtime. She devoured novels, lost herself in stories, and had a vivid imagination that spilled onto the page when she wrote poetry. Her love for words and ideas was a quiet rebellion against her mom's obsession with appearances. It was like Jackie was saying, "I'm more than a pretty face." She adored her dad, who fed her creativity and encouraged her to think big. Jack was her biggest cheerleader, the one who made her believe she could conquer the world, and their bond was unbreakable, even with the family drama swirling around them. Despite the chaos at home, Jackie's inner fire only grew stronger. She had this subtle defiance, a way of bending the rules without breaking them. You could see it in the way she carried herself, like she knew she was destined for more than just fancy tea parties and society balls. And let's not sleep on her brains, because Jackie was wicked smart. Her education was top tier, starting with Miss Porter's School from 1944 to 1947. This wasn't just any school. It was the place for the East Coast's richest and most connected families, where girls were groomed to be the wives of senators and CEOs. Jackie fit right in, but she wasn't there to just coast. She soaked up everything, from literature to history, sharpening her mind and her wit. After Miss Porter's, she headed to Vassar College in 1947, diving into the liberal arts and loving every second of it. But the real game changer came in 1949, when Jackie hopped on a plane and landed in Paris to study at the Sorbonne. Oh, baby. Paris was where it all clicked. Jackie fell head over heels for the City of Light. The art, the fashion, the food. She was obsessed. She'd wander through museums, sip espresso at sidewalk cafes, and soak up the effortless elegance of French culture. It wasn't just a study abroad program. It was a love affair with a whole way of life. Paris unlocked something in Jackie, giving her a vision of sophistication and style that would define her forever. She'd later bring that French flair to everything, from her iconic fashion choices to the menu she picked for White House dinners. That year in France was like a spark that lit her soul on fire. When she returned to the States, Jackie finished her education at George Washington University, earning a BA in arts in 1951. But here's the thing, Jackie wasn't just a scholar, she was a linguistic rock star, fluent in French and Spanish, and she could even hold her own in Italian. Imagine being able to switch languages like it's nothing, charming everyone from diplomats to artists. That multilingual glow wasn't just for show. It was a sign of her curiosity and her drive to connect with the world. Jackie wasn't content to stay in her bubble. She wanted to know things, to experience life in all its colors. And let me tell you, Jackie didn't rest on her laurels or her family's bank account. Fresh out of college, she said, "Nah, I'm not just going to sit around," and jumped into the workforce. At 22, she landed a gig as a photojournalist for the Washington Times-Herald. And let me paint you a picture. Young Jackie, camera in hand, weaving through the hustle and bustle of Washington, D.C., chasing stories and snapping pics. This wasn't some fluff job her family pulled strings for. She was out there grinding, interviewing senators, congressmen, and all the big shots who ran the Capitol. In a world full of cigar-chomping, suit-wearing men, Jackie held her own, asking sharp questions and capturing moments that told a story. That job wasn't just a paycheck. It was her entry into the world of power and influence, putting her right in the thick of the political scene that would soon shape her destiny. In the early 1950s, Jackie, now 24, is absolutely killing it in Washington, D.C. She's fresh off her gig as a photojournalist for the Washington Times-Herald, where she was snapping pics and grilling politicians like a pro. With her sharp wit, Paris-honed style, and that effortless charm, she's turning heads left and right, mingling with the political elite and owning every room she walks into. This isn't just some society girl coasting on her family's name. Jackie's out here making waves, and the world is starting to notice. But her love life, oh, it's about to steal the spotlight in a major way. Back in June 1952, Jackie dipped her toe into the engagement pool with a stockbroker named John Husted Jr. He was a solid guy, polished, successful, the kind of match her mom, Janet, probably approved of. But let's be real, Jackie wasn't here for solid. She was a firecracker, a woman with dreams bigger than a safe, predictable life. The spark with Husted just wasn't there, and Jackie, with her fierce independence, wasn't about to settle. So she called off the engagement, breaking it off like a boss and leaving Husted in the dust. It was a bold move, but it cleared the way for someone way more electrifying to enter her life. Cue John F. Kennedy, the dashing senator from Massachusetts who was basically political royalty wrapped in a tailored suit. JFK was 35, with a smile that could melt glaciers, an Irish lilt that made hearts skip, and a charisma that lit up every room. The guy was a rock star in the making, already a rising star in the Democratic Party with a family name that carried serious clout. Jackie and JFK crossed paths at a Georgetown dinner party in May 1952, thanks to a mutual friend, journalist Charles Bartlett, who basically played Cupid. The moment they locked eyes, it was game over. The chemistry was instant. Think witty banter, stolen glances, and that kind of electric vibe that screams, "This is it." Jackie was captivated by JFK's ambition and charm, while he was floored by her intelligence, grace, and that quiet confidence that set her apart. It was like a scene from a classic rom-com, except this was real life and the stakes were about to get sky high. Their courtship was a whirlwind of DC parties, late-night talks, and JFK's relentless pursuit. He wasn't just smitten, he was all in. By early 1953, he popped the question with a dazzling Van Cleef and Arpels ring, and Jackie said yes. The engagement was the talk of the town, with newspapers buzzing about the glamorous couple. On September 12, 1953, they tied the knot in a wedding that was nothing short of legendary. Picture Newport, Rhode Island, under a perfect September sky, with St. Mary's Church packed to the brim with over 800 guests, senators, socialites, and the creme de la creme of the American elite. Outside, 3,000 fans lined the streets, screaming for a glimpse of the bride. Jackie was a vision, gliding down the aisle in a gown designed by Ann Lowe, a black designer who was a genius with a needle. The dress was pure magic, ivory silk taffeta, a fitted bodice with a portrait neckline, and a skirt that flowed like a dream, paired with a rose point lace veil that trailed behind her. It took 50 yards of fabric and 2 months of work, and it was worth every second. Jackie looked like royalty. The reception at Hammersmith Farm, Janet Auchincloss's sprawling estate, was a full-on extravaganza. We're talking 1,200 guests, a 10-foot tiered cake, endless champagne, and a dance floor that didn't quit. The Kennedy energy was in overdrive, loud, celebratory, and unapologetically extra. There were bagpipes, a full orchestra, and enough food to feed a small army. Jackie and JFK were the golden couple, smiling for the cameras, cutting the cake, and basking in the glow of their new life together. The press ate it up, calling it the wedding of the century, and it wasn't just hype. This was the launch of a partnership that would reshape American history, blending Jackie's sophistication with JFK's political star power. It wasn't just a marriage, it was the birth of a dynasty. But let's keep it real. Being married to JFK was no fairy tale. On the surface, they were America's dream team, young, gorgeous, and unstoppable. But behind closed doors, their relationship was a complex mix of love, loyalty, and some serious challenges. Jackie and JFK welcomed 4 children, and their journey as parents was a roller coaster of joy and unimaginable pain. In 1956, they suffered a heartbreaking loss when their daughter Arabella was stillborn. It was a private devastation, the kind of grief that could have fractured a marriage, but Jackie and JFK leaned on each other, finding strength in their shared sorrow. The next year, 1957, brought a ray of sunshine with the birth of Caroline Kennedy, a bright-spirited girl who lit up their world. Carolyn was Jackie's pride and joy, a mini-me with her mom's curiosity and charm. In 1960, they welcomed John F. Kennedy Jr., affectionately called John John, a cherubic boy who'd later become a national heartthrob. But tragedy struck again in August 1963, when their youngest, Patrick Bouvier Kennedy, was born prematurely and passed away just 2 days later. The loss was crushing, coming at a time when the couple was already under immense pressure. Through it all, Jackie was a rock, pouring her love into Caroline and John John while carrying her grief with quiet dignity. She balanced motherhood with a public life that demanded perfection, and somehow she made it look seamless. Now let's address the big juicy elephant in the room, JFK's reputation as a ladies' man. The guy was a charmer, no question, with a magnetic pull that drew people in like moths to a flame. But that charm came with a downside. Rumors of affairs were everywhere. From Hollywood icons like Marilyn Monroe to DC staffers, the gossip mills were working overtime, churning out stories of JFK's extracurricular activities. It was the kind of scandal that could have derailed a marriage and a political career, especially in the 1950s, when appearances were everything. But Jackie? She was unbothered, at least on the surface. Insiders say she knew about JFK's wandering eye but chose not to let it define her. Instead of diving into the drama, she focused on her kids, her passions, and her role as the impeccable wife of a rising star. Some historians suggest there was an unspoken agreement. JFK had his freedom, and Jackie maintained the image of the perfect couple, keeping the Kennedy brand untarnished. Was it a calculated move, a sign of her resilience, or just a way to protect her heart? Maybe a bit of all three. What's clear is that Jackie's ability to rise above the whispers showed a strength that was pure steel wrapped in silk. She wasn't here to play the victim. She was playing the long game. Then there was JFK's health, which was another layer of complexity in their marriage. To the public, he was the picture of youthful vigor, tan, athletic, always flashing that $1,000,000 smile. But behind the scenes, JFK was fighting a constant battle with his body. He suffered from chronic back pain so severe he sometimes needed crutches, along with Addison's disease, a rare condition that messed with his hormones and left him exhausted. He was in and out of hospitals, undergoing risky surgeries, taking a cocktail of medications and wearing a back brace just to stand upright during speeches. The pain was relentless, and the treatments were grueling, but JFK kept it hidden, projecting strength to the world. Jackie was his rock through it all. She was there for the late-night doctor visits, the recovery periods, and the moments when he doubted himself. She managed his medical needs with the same precision she brought to everything else, all while keeping up her flawless public image. It was a heavy load, but Jackie carried it with grace, never letting the world see the strain. She wasn't just a wife, she was a partner in every sense, helping JFK navigate a life that demanded he be larger than life. Let's talk about the Kennedys as a family, because marrying JFK meant signing up for a wild ride with one of America's most intense dynasties. The Kennedys were like a political machine on steroids, loud, competitive, and always gunning for the top. They thrived on ambition, whether it was winning elections, dominating touch football games, or stealing the spotlight at every event. It was a high-octane, in-your-face vibe, And Jackie, with her quiet elegance and reserved demeanor, was like a breath of fresh air in the middle of their chaos. She didn't mesh with their need to always be the loudest in the room, and she wasn't about their constant one-upmanship. Where the Kennedys were brash, Jackie was refined. Where they were showy, she was subtle. That contrast could have made her an outsider, but instead it made her a standout. She won over the family in her own way, especially her father-in-law, Joseph P. Kennedy. Joe was the mastermind behind the Kennedy empire, a shrewd businessman with a knack for spotting potential. From the moment he met Jackie, he knew she was special. He saw her charm, her poise, and her ability to captivate a crowd without even trying. Joe recognized that Jackie wasn't just a pretty face. She was a secret weapon, someone who could polish the Kennedy image and make them America's golden family. He wasn't wrong. Jackie's star power was magnetic, and Joe leaned into it, encouraging her to embrace the public eye. He'd often brag about her to his political allies, calling her the ace up our sleeve. His faith in her wasn't just flattery. It was a sign that Jackie was already a force, even before she became First Lady. Jackie also formed a deep bond with her brother-in-law, Robert Bobby Kennedy, JFK's closest confidant and the family's fiery idealist. Bobby was intense, driven by a passion for justice and a loyalty to his brother that knew no bounds. He and Jackie clicked on a level that went beyond family ties. They shared a love for big ideas, art, literature, politics, and could spend hours diving into deep conversations that left everyone else in the dust. Bobby admired Jackie's intellect and her ability to stay calm in the Kennedy storm, while she appreciated his sincerity and his willingness to fight for what mattered. They were allies, often teaming up to support JFK's political ambitions, whether it was brainstorming campaign strategies or hosting events that showcased the family's vision. In the whirlwind of Kennedy life, Bobby was a grounding force for Jackie, a friend who got her in a way few others did. But the rest of the Kennedy clan? Jackie kept them at arm's length. The family's competitive streak, think loud arguments, endless rivalries, and a need to always be the center of attention wasn't her style. She wasn't here for the drama or the need to prove herself in their high-energy world. Instead, she carved out her own space, earning respect through her quiet strength and undeniable presence. The Kennedys might have been the loudest voices in the room, but Jackie's understated elegance spoke volumes, making her a standout without ever raising her voice. Being a Kennedy wife meant living under a microscope, not just from the family, but from the entire world. As JFK climbed the political ladder, first as a senator, then as a presidential candidate in 1960, the spotlight on Jackie grew brighter. Every outfit, every word, every gesture was analyzed by the press and the public. The media was obsessed, calling her everything from America's new style icon to the perfect political wife. It was a lot of pressure, especially for a woman who valued her privacy and preferred substance over flash. But Jackie handled it like a pro, crafting a public persona that was polished yet relatable, glamorous yet grounded. She wasn't chasing fame. She was building something bigger, a legacy that would outlast the gossip and the headlines. In November 1960, and the air was electric. John F. Kennedy has just eked out a razor-thin victory over Richard Nixon in one of the tightest presidential races in history. At 43, JFK becomes the 35th President of the United States, bringing his youthful energy and big dreams to the Oval Office. And Jackie, at 31, she steps into the role of First Lady, one of the youngest ever to take on the gig. She's a breath of fresh air, gorgeous, cultured, and sharp as a tack, with a love for art and history that's about to shake up 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. The world's eyes are glued to her and Jackie's ready to deliver. From the second she moves in, she's a media magnet, with every outfit, every smile, every word splashed across newspapers, magazines, and TV screens. This wasn't just a role, it was a moment, and Jackie was about to make it unforgettable, blending sophistication with a vision that would redefine what the White House could be. Let's start with the thing that made Jackie a global sensation: her fashion. Oh, honey, Jackie didn't just wear clothes, she created style. Her wardrobe was a masterpiece, a perfect mix of high-end glamour and effortless chic that had women everywhere scrambling to keep up. She was head over heels for French haute couture, worshiping at the altar of designers like Chanel, Givenchy, and Dior. Those clean lines, those luxurious fabrics, those perfectly tailored silhouettes. Jackie couldn't get enough. She'd swoon over a sleek Chanel suit or a flowing Dior gown, each piece a work of art that screamed elegance. But here's the real tea. As First Lady, she had to play it smart. Wearing only French designs could have sparked backlash for seeming un-American, especially in a country buzzing with patriotic pride. So Jackie got clever. She partnered with Chez Ninon, a high-end New York atelier, to recreate those Parisian looks with an American twist. They'd take a Givenchy sketch or a Dior pattern and whip up a version that was just as stunning but made in the USA, keeping the critics quiet while letting Jackie stay true to her style. It was a genius move. She got her couture fix and still waved the stars and stripes. Her fashion game was next level. Picture Jackie stepping out in a tailored A-line dress, her signature pillbox hat perched just so. Those little round hats became the must-have accessory thanks to her. She'd pair it with oversized sunglasses that gave her a mysterious Hollywood starlet vibe, shielding her eyes while adding an air of intrigue. And those elbow-length gloves? Pure royalty. Whether she was rocking a crisp day dress for a public event or a shimmering gown for a state dinner, Jackie's style was all about minimalism with maximum impact. Nothing was ever overdone, no loud prints, no gaudy accessories. Just clean, elegant looks that radiated confidence. Her bouffant hair, always perfectly styled, framed her face like a crown, and her tailored coats were so iconic they could have had their own fan club. Women from Paris to Podunk were copying her, raiding department stores for pillbox hats and oversized shades, desperate to capture that Jackie look. She wasn't just a fashion icon, she was a cultural force, setting trends that crossed borders and defined an era. Her influence was so profound that even decades later, designers still nod to her style, and fashionistas on social media chase that timeless Jackie glow. Her wardrobe wasn't just about looking good. It was about wielding power, shaping identity, and commanding attention without ever raising her voice. But Jackie's legacy as First Lady wasn't just about serving looks. She had a vision for the White House itself that was nothing short of revolutionary. When she and JFK moved in, she took one look around and was like, "This ain't it." The White House, the ultimate symbol of American power, felt like a soulless government office to her. The furniture was a mishmash of generic pieces, the decor lacked character, and the whole place screamed bureaucratic beige instead of history. Jackie, with her deep love for art, culture, and the past, wasn't about to let that slide. She saw the White House as more than just a residence. It was the people's house, a living testament to America's story, and it deserved to shine. So she launched a massive restoration project that would become one of her proudest achievements, pouring her heart and soul into making the White House a beacon of heritage and pride. This wasn't just a redecorating job. Jackie turned into a full-on history detective. She dove headfirst into archives, poring over old records to uncover the White House's original designs. She hunted down artifacts from the building's early days, tracking down everything from chandeliers to rugs. that had once graced its halls. Her mission was clear. Every room needed to tell a story, to reflect the legacy of the presidents and first ladies who came before. To pull it off, she assembled a powerhouse team, creating the Fine Arts Committee, a group of top-tier historians, curators, and art experts who shared her vision. Jackie wasn't playing small. She charmed donors, rallied support, and raised serious funds to bankroll the project. She scoured auctions, private collections, and even dusty attics, searching for treasures like a portrait of Benjamin Franklin or a chair from Thomas Jefferson's era. She didn't just want replicas. She wanted the real deal, authentic pieces that carried the weight of history. When museums hesitated to part with their artifacts, Jackie's charm worked like magic, convincing them to loan out priceless items to restore the White House's soul. The transformation was jaw-dropping. The White House went from dull to dazzling, with every room meticulously restored to reflect its historical roots. The Red Room came alive with rich crimson silk walls and period furniture that whispered 19th century elegance. The Blue Room sparkled with French-inspired touches, blending Jackie's love for Parisian style with American pride. The State Dining Room felt like a time machine, with gilded candelabras, portraits of past presidents, and tables set with silver that had seen centuries of history. Jackie didn't just redecorate, she breathed life into the place, turning it into a living museum where every detail told a story. It wasn't about making it pretty, it was about making it mean something, ensuring the White House stood as a symbol of America's past and its promise for the future. And Jackie didn't keep her masterpiece under wraps, she invited the whole country to see it. On February 14, 1962, she starred in a CBS special, A Tour of the White House, with Mrs. John F. Kennedy guiding an astonishing 56 million viewers through the revamped rooms. Dressed in a chic red dress, Jackie was the perfect host, poised, passionate, and whip-smart. She walked viewers through the staterooms, pointing out a chandelier from the Madison era or a desk that once belonged to Lincoln, explaining their significance with the ease of a history professor and the charm of a movie star. She didn't just show off furniture, she told stories, connecting each piece to the presidents, first ladies, and moments that shaped America. The broadcast was a cultural phenomenon, drawing more viewers than most primetime shows and earning Jackie an honorary Emmy. It wasn't just a tour, it was a love letter to the nation, a way of saying, this history belongs to all of us. People were glued to their screens, captivated by Jackie's vision and her ability to make the past feel alive and relevant. Beyond her restoration project, Jackie was rewriting the entire First Lady playbook. She and JFK were a power couple like no other, young, cultured, and passionate about bringing the arts to the forefront. Previous First Ladies often stuck to safe traditional roles, but Jackie, she was here to shake things up. The Kennedys saw the White House as a stage to inspire, and Jackie ran with it, turning it into a cultural hub that buzzed with creativity. She orchestrated events that were less about stuffy protocol and more about celebrating human achievement. Her state dinners were legendary, transforming what used to be bland, formal affairs into vibrant, unforgettable evenings. Jackie brought her love for French culture to the table, literally, curating menus with dishes like coq au vin, bouillabaisse, and crème brûlée that left guests raving. She ditched the old-school U-shaped tables for intimate round ones, fostering real conversations instead of awkward small talk. The vibe was electric, with every detail from the linens to the wine chosen to dazzle. Her guest list, pure genius. Jackie mixed Nobel Prize winners with opera singers, jazz legends with world leaders, creating a melting pot of ideas and energy. One night she hosted a dinner for Nobel laureates, turning the White House into a celebration of intellect and innovation. Another time, she welcomed French cultural minister André Malraux, charming him with her fluency in French and her deep knowledge of art. That dinner wasn't just a meal, it was diplomacy in action. Malraux was so impressed that he later arranged for the Mona Lisa to be loaned to the U.S., a cultural coup that had the world buzzing and cemented Jackie's reputation as a global tastemaker. Her events weren't just parties. They were masterclasses in soft power, showcasing America as a nation that valued creativity as much as strength. Jackie and JFK were in sync, both committed to elevating the arts in a country often obsessed with politics and business. They believed the White House could inspire, and Jackie made it happen. She brought in the American Ballet Theater for performances that left audiences in awe, hosted Shakespearean actors who brought classic plays to life, and even welcomed a youth orchestra led by a teenage Yo-Yo Ma, whose cello skills were already mind-blowing. These weren't just photo ops, they were a bold statement that culture mattered, that America could lead in art as much as in power. Jackie's touch was in every detail, from the fresh, elegant floral arrangements to the handwritten notes she sent to guests, making everyone feel like they'd just dined with royalty. The press couldn't get enough, calling her America's hostess, a title she earned with every perfectly executed event. It's the fall of 1963, and Jackie is at the height of her game. At 34, she's the glamorous first lady who's got the world obsessed with her pillbox hats, her chic Chanel suits, and her knack for making history feel alive. She and JFK are America's golden couple, navigating the high-stakes world of the presidency with their trademark charm and ambition. But the clock's ticking. The 1964 election is just around the corner, and JFK needs to lock in support in key states to secure a second term. Texas, with its 25 electoral votes and a messy political landscape, is a must-win. The state's a tough one, split between conservative Democrats and a growing Republican base, with some folks still skeptical of JFK's liberal policies and Catholic background. To win over voters, JFK plans a multi-city tour to show Texas some love, and Jackie, ever the loyal partner, signs on to join him. It's a big deal. She's been choosy about her public appearances, pouring her energy into raising Caroline, 5, and John Jr., 3, while juggling her First Lady duties like a pro. But this trip, it's a chance to prove the Kennedys are a united front, ready to charm the socks off Texas and solidify their political dynasty. On November 21st, the Kennedys touched down in Texas, kicking off a whirlwind campaign swing that's all about winning hearts and minds. They hit San Antonio first, where Jackie stuns the crowd with her elegance, speaking a few words in Spanish that have the locals cheering. In Houston, she's a vision in a tailored suit, flashing that megawatt smile that makes everyone feel like they're her best friend. By the time they reach Fort Worth that evening, the energy is electric. Jackie's stealing the show, winning over skeptics with her warmth and grace, while JFK delivers speeches that fire up the crowds. The Texas press can't get enough, splashing photos of the couple across front pages, with headlines raving about Jackie's poise and JFK's charisma. The crowds are chanting her name, snapping pictures and waving signs, and for a moment it feels like the Kennedys are unstoppable. They spend the night at the Hotel Texas in Fort Worth, where locals even hang a Picasso in their suite as a welcome gift. It's a high note, and the couple is buzzing with optimism as they head into the final leg of the tour, Dallas. November 22nd dawns bright and sunny in Dallas, a city known for its political divides and a not-so-warm vibe toward JFK. Dallas is conservative turf, home to vocal critics who've been throwing shade at Kennedy's policies, through fiery editorials, and even a hostile ad in the morning paper. But the Kennedys aren't fazed. They're here to win people over, and they're pulling out all the stops. The plan is a motorcade through downtown Dallas, a public display of accessibility meant to show they're not afraid to connect with the people. It's a bold move, especially with tensions high, but bold is the Kennedy way. Jackie wakes up ready to shine, slipping into a custom-made pink Chanel suit that's pure perfection, double-breasted wool boucle with a vibrant strawberry pink hue that pops under the Texas sun. The suit's got navy trim, a crisp white blouse, and a matching pillbox hat that's practically a crown. It's quintessential Jackie, chic, elegant, and just a touch daring, designed to make a statement without saying a word. She pairs it with white gloves and low heels, every detail screaming sophistication as she steps out to face the day. At around 11:40 a.m., the Kennedys board their Lincoln Continental convertible, a sleek, open-top car that's all about showing they're approachable. Jackie's in the back seat next to JFK, who's looking sharp in a navy suit and tie, his smile as bright as ever. Texas Governor John Connally and his wife Nellie are up front, and Secret Service agents are nearby, keeping a watchful eye. The motorcade rolls out from Love Field Airport, winding through Dallas's bustling streets as thousands of people line the sidewalks, cheering, waving signs, and snapping photos. The vibe is electric. Dallas might be a tough crowd, but the turnout is massive, with families, workers, and kids all clamoring for a glimpse of the first couple. Jackie's waving gracefully, her gloved hand catching the sunlight, while JFK flashes his famous grin, soaking in the energy. Nellie Connally turns back to JFK at one point, beaming, and says, "Mr. President, you can't say Dallas doesn't love you." It's 12:30 p.m., and the motorcade is nearing Dealey Plaza, a triangular patch of downtown with the Texas School Book Depository looming on the right. The crowd's cheers are deafening, and for a moment, it feels like the Kennedys are winning Dallas over. Then, in a heartbeat, the world falls apart. A sharp crack splits the air. Jackie later calls it a strange noise, like a firecracker or a car backfiring. Before anyone can process it, another shot rings out, and then a third. Gunshots. The motorcade lurches into chaos. Jackie turns to JFK, and what she sees is a nightmare unfolding in slow motion. A bullet has struck her husband, hitting him in the neck and head. He slumps forward, blood spreading across his shirt, his body crumpling against the seat. The crowd's cheers turn to screams, and panic ripples through Dealey Plaza. In that moment, Jackie witnesses something horrific. A piece of JFK's skull is blown off, a gruesome fragment of the violence that's just shattered her world. Without thinking, driven by pure instinct, she climbs onto the trunk of the moving car, reaching for that piece in a desperate, almost primal act. Was she trying to save it, to hold on to a part of him? Was it a reflex to shield him from more harm? Even Jackie later admitted she didn't know why she did it. It was a gut reaction, born of shock, love, and the raw terror of watching her husband's life slip away. Secret Service agent Clint Hill, racing to protect her, leaps onto the car, grabbing Jackie and pushing her back into the seat as the driver slams the gas, speeding toward Parkland Memorial Hospital. The ride to Parkland, just 5 minutes away, feels like an eternity. Jackie cradles JFK's head in her lap, her pink suit now soaked with his blood, her hands trembling, but her focus locked on him. The car screeches into the hospital's emergency bay at 12:36 p.m., and doctors rush out, whisking JFK into Trauma Room 1. Jackie follows, still in that blood-stained suit, her face pale but eerily composed, her eyes fixed on her husband as medical staff swarm around him. In a moment of surreal clarity, she hands that fragment of his skull to a doctor, a gesture that's both heartbreaking and haunting, like she's trying to piece him back together even as hope fades. The hospital is a whirlwind of chaos, doctors shouting, machines beeping, nurses scrambling to stabilize the president. Governor Connolly, also hit, is rushed to another room, but all eyes are on JFK. His wounds are catastrophic. A bullet through his throat, another through his head, and the medical team knows it's a losing battle. Jackie stays close, refusing to leave his side, her presence a quiet anchor in the storm. At 1 p.m., just 30 minutes after the shots rang out, the doctors call it. John F. Kennedy, the 35th President of the United States, is dead. Jackie, at 34, is now a widow, her world shattered in the blink of an eye. That pink Chanel suit, once a symbol of her vibrant style, is now drenched in her husband's blood, a stark, visceral reminder of the tragedy that's just unfolded. It's an image that will sear itself into America's collective memory, a portrait of loss that's as vivid as it is devastating. In the midst of this nightmare, Jackie's strength emerges, and it's nothing short of extraordinary. As aides and Secret Service agents urge her to change out of her blood-stained suit, she shuts them down with a resolve that's almost otherworldly. "No," she says, her voice steady despite the grief tearing through her. "Let them see what they've done." It's not just a statement, it's a defiant cry, a refusal to sanitize the brutality of what's happened. Jackie wants the world to face the reality of her husband's murder, to see the blood, the loss, the raw truth of it all. That pink suit, once a beacon of her elegance, becomes a symbol of her courage, a visual testament to the violence that took JFK and the strength of the woman left behind. She wears it like armor, a deliberate choice to confront the world with the unfiltered horror of the moment. As she moves through Parkland Hospital, her head held high despite the weight of her grief, photographers capture the image, a poised figure in a blood-stained suit, a widow standing tall in the face of unimaginable pain. The journey back to Washington is a blur of sorrow and duty. On Air Force One, as Lyndon B. Johnson is sworn in as the new president in a cramped cabin at 2:38 p.m., Jackie stands just feet away, still in that suit. Her face is a mask of grief, her eyes hollow, but her posture is unwavering, a silent force amidst the chaos. The plane is a mix of shock, sorrow, and urgency. Aides scrambling to process the unthinkable, Secret Service agents coordinating security, and LBJ stepping into a role no one expected. Jackie's presence is a quiet power, holding the nation's pain alongside her own. She refuses to change, even as they land at Andrews Air Force Base in the dark of night, with Bobby Kennedy now by her side. The bloodstains on her suit stand out starkly under the floodlights, a haunting contrast to the darkness around her. Photographers snap away, and the image of Jackie, heartbroken yet resolute, burns into the nation's psyche. It's not just a moment of loss, it's a moment of strength, a testament to her ability to face the worst day of her life with a dignity that's almost superhuman. In the hours and days that follow, Jackie's focus shifts to honoring JFK's legacy, even as her heart is breaking. Despite her grief, she takes charge of planning his funeral, diving into the details with a precision that's both remarkable and heartbreaking. She draws inspiration from Abraham Lincoln's funeral, wanting a ceremony that reflects the magnitude of the loss and the weight of JFK's presidency. She's meticulous, choosing every element: the eternal flame at Arlington National Cemetery, the riderless horse with boots reversed in the stirrups, the solemn procession through Washington's streets. She works closely with aides, historians, and military officials, ensuring every detail is perfect, from the black-draped caisson to the muffled drums. She stands with her children, Caroline and John Jr., just 5 and 3 years old, guiding them through a public mourning watched by millions around the world. The image of little John saluting his father's casket will become one of the most iconic moments of the century. But it's Jackie's strength that holds it all together. She's not just mourning, she's shaping a legacy, ensuring JFK's memory is honored in a way that resonates for generations. In the days following JFK's death, Jackie takes charge of honoring his legacy with a precision and poise that leave everyone in awe. The nation is in chaos, grappling with shock and sorrow, but Jackie becomes the steady hand guiding America through its grief. She dives into planning JFK's funeral, determined to make it a tribute that reflects the magnitude of his life and presidency. Drawing inspiration from Abraham Lincoln's funeral, a somber historic affair that marked another national tragedy, she meticulously crafts every detail to ensure it's a fitting farewell. This isn't just about saying goodbye. It's about cementing JFK's place in history as a leader who inspired hope and change. Jackie works tirelessly with aides, military officials, and historians, choosing elements that carry deep symbolic weight. She selects a black-draped caisson to carry JFK's casket, a nod to Lincoln's funeral procession. She insists on a riderless horse with boots reversed in the stirrups, a military tradition symbolizing a fallen leader. And perhaps most enduringly, she chooses to light an eternal flame at Arlington National Cemetery, a beacon of remembrance that will burn forever in JFK's honor. The funeral unfolds over 3 days, a national spectacle watched by millions around the world. On November 24th, JFK's body lies in state at the U.S. Capitol, where Jackie, dressed in a simple black mourning dress, leads Caroline and John Jr. to pay their respects. In a moment that breaks hearts worldwide, she kneels before her husband's flag-draped casket in the Capitol Rotunda, her children by her side, their small hands clutching hers. It's a scene of quiet devastation, a mother guiding her kids through a loss they can barely comprehend, all while the nation looks on. Jackie's composure is almost otherworldly. She's grieving, but she's also a pillar of strength, embodying the dignity the country needs. The next day, November 25th, the funeral procession begins, and Jackie's presence is unforgettable. She walks barefoot behind the caisson from the White House to St. Matthew's Cathedral, a striking choice that feels both humble and profound. The world watches as she moves with grace, her head bowed but her resolve unshaken, Carolyn and John Jr. holding her hands. The streets of Washington, D.C. are lined with mourners, their silence broken only by the sound of muffled drums and the clop of horses' hooves. It's a moment that captures the nation's sorrow, with Jackie at its heart. At St. Matthew's Cathedral, the funeral mass is a solemn affair, attended by world leaders, dignitaries, and the Kennedy family. Jackie, still in black, sits in the front pew with her children, her face veiled but her strength palpable. She's not just a widow here. She's the embodiment of a nation's grief, carrying the weight of America's loss while shielding her kids from the overwhelming spotlight. The service is deeply Catholic, reflecting JFK's faith, with a requiem mass and haunting hymns that echo through the cathedral. After the mass, the procession continues to Arlington National Cemetery, where Jackie lights the eternal flame at JFK's gravesite. The flame, flickering against the gray November sky, becomes a symbol of hope and endurance, a tribute to a president whose light in Jackie's eyes will never fade. She stands there, flanked by Bobby Kennedy and her children, as the world watches in awe. The London Evening Standard captures it perfectly. Jacqueline gave the American people their majesty. It's not just a compliment, it's a truth. In a nation searching for meaning amid tragedy, Jackie delivers a sense of grace and grandeur that America didn't even know it needed. A week after the assassination, Jackie sits down with journalist Theodore H. White for an interview with Life magazine, a moment that will shape JFK's legacy forever. Still reeling from loss, she's reflective but resolute, determined to frame her husband's presidency in a way that will endure. In a stroke of brilliance, she compares JFK's time in office to Camelot, the mythical kingdom of King Arthur, a place of hope, idealism, and fleeting perfection. The term is a masterstroke, evocative, romantic, and unforgettable. It casts JFK's presidency as a golden era, a brief but brilliant moment that inspired a generation. The Life article, published on December 6, 1963, spreads the Camelot metaphor worldwide, cementing JFK's image as a visionary leader cut down too soon. Jackie's choice of words isn't just poetic, it's strategic, ensuring her husband's legacy isn't defined by tragedy, but by the promise of what could have been. It's a testament to her storytelling genius, her ability to shape history even in her darkest hour. But after the public rituals and the media spotlight, Jackie makes a deliberate choice. She steps back. The year following JFK's death is one of deep mourning, and Jackie retreats from the public eye to grieve privately and protect her children. The assassination wasn't just a personal loss. It was a wake-up call about the dangers her family faced. With conspiracy theories swirling and fears of further violence, Jackie's priority becomes safety, especially for Caroline and John Jr. She moves out of the White House just weeks after the funeral, settling in a Georgetown townhouse to escape the constant glare of D.C. The move is tough, leaving the home where she and JFK built their legacy. But it's necessary. The public still clamors for her, with letters and tributes pouring in from around the world. But Jackie needs space to heal. She's not just mourning a husband. She's grappling with the loss of a life she and JFK had envisioned together, all while shielding her kids from a world that feels suddenly hostile. For nearly a year, Jackie stays out of sight, focusing on her children and herself. She spends time in Hyannisport, the Kennedy family compound, where Caroline and John Jr. can run free, away from the cameras. She takes them on quiet trips to New York and Virginia, seeking normalcy in a life turned upside down. The press, hungry for glimpses of the former First Lady, respects her privacy to an extent, but paparazzi still lurk, snapping photos when she least expects it. Jackie, ever protective, keeps her kids close, shielding them from the spotlight while teaching them to carry their father's memory with pride. She's a single mom now, navigating grief while ensuring Caroline and John Jr. feel loved and secure. It's a balancing act that would overwhelm most, but Jackie handles it with the same quiet strength she showed in Dallas. She leans on close friends and family, especially Bobby Kennedy, who becomes a rock for her and the kids, offering support as they navigate this new, uncertain world. Even in her retreat, Jackie's presence lingers in the public imagination. The images of her at the funeral, kneeling by the casket, walking barefoot in the procession, lighting the eternal flame, are etched into history. Her grace under pressure captivates the world, with newspapers from London to Tokyo praising her as a symbol of dignity. She receives thousands of condolence letters, from world leaders to ordinary citizens, all touched by her resilience. But Jackie's not chasing fame. She's protecting her family and herself, choosing a life of quiet reflection over the spotlight. Her concerns about safety are real. The assassination has left her wary, and the murder of Bobby Kennedy in 1968 will later confirm her fears about the dangers facing her family. For now, though, she focuses on healing, spending long hours reading, writing, and reflecting on the life she and JFK shared. She keeps JFK's memory alive for her kids, telling them stories about their father's humor, his dreams, and his love for them, ensuring they grow up knowing who he was. In 1968, Jackie was in a whole new chapter of her life. At 39, she's no longer just the glamorous First Lady or the grieving widow who captivated the world after JFK's assassination. She's a single mom to Caroline, now 11, and John Jr., 8, navigating a world that still watches her every move. The past 5 years have been heavy. After losing JFK in 1963, she retreated to protect her kids and herself, haunted by the fear that danger still lurked. That fear became all too real in June 1968, when her brother-in-law Bobby Kennedy was gunned down just months after announcing his presidential run. Bobby's death hit Jackie like a freight train, confirming her worst nightmares. The Kennedy family seemed to be a target, marked by tragedy in a way that felt almost cursed. With 2 assassinations shaking her world, Jackie's priority was crystal clear: keep her kids safe and get out of the spotlight that had turned her life into a pressure cooker. America, as much as she loved it, felt like a minefield, and she needed a way out. Enter Aristotle Onassis, a name that was practically synonymous with wealth and power. At 62, Onassis was a Greek shipping magnate who'd built an empire from the ground up, owning a fleet of tankers and a fortune that made him one of the richest men alive. He was larger than life, short, stocky, with a larger-than-life personality, a cigar always in hand, and a reputation for living big. Onassis wasn't just about money. He had connections, influence, and a private island called Scorpios off the Greek coast, a fortress of luxury where he could control his world. Jackie and Onassis had crossed paths before, back in the 1950s, through mutual friends in the jet-set crowd. But it was in the mid-60s that their connection deepened. After JFK's death, Onassis was a frequent guest at Kennedy family gatherings, charming Jackie with his wit and offering a shoulder during her grief. By 1968, with Bobby's assassination reigniting her fears, Jackie saw Onassis as more than a friend. He was a lifeline, a man with the resources and power to shield her and her kids from the danger she felt closing in. On October 20th, 1968, Jackie made her move, and it was a bombshell. She married Onassis on Scorpios, his private island paradise, in a ceremony that was as exclusive as it was shocking. Picture this: a tiny whitewashed chapel on a sun-drenched Greek island, surrounded by turquoise waters and olive groves. The guest list was tight: family, close friends, and a handful of trusted insiders far from the prying eyes of the press. Jackie was radiant in a simple, elegant Valentino dress, ivory lace, knee-length, with long sleeves and a high neckline, a nod to her signature style, but softer, more intimate for this new chapter. Onassis, dapper in a tailored suit, beamed with pride, his eyes twinkling as he stood next to the woman who'd just turned his world upside down. The ceremony was orthodox, reflecting Onassis's Greek heritage, with candles flickering and ancient chants filling the air. It was a stark contrast to the massive Newport wedding with JFK 15 years earlier. This was private, personal, and deliberately low-key, a choice that spoke to Jackie's need for security and a fresh start. But let's be real, this marriage wasn't just about love. It was a strategic alliance that shook the world. For Jackie, it was an escape hatch. After Bobby's death, she was convinced the Kennedys were in the crosshairs of unseen enemies, and the U.S. felt like a ticking time bomb. Onassis offered something no one else could: protection. His wealth meant private security, secluded estates, and a lifestyle that kept the world at arm's length. Scorpios was a fortress, complete with armed guards and a no-fly zone, a place where Caroline and John Jr. could grow up safe from the threats that haunted their mom. In return, Jackie gave Onassis something he craved: social prestige. The man had billions, But what he wanted was the kind of respectability that came with marrying America's beloved former First Lady. Jackie's elegance, her Kennedy aura, and her global fame elevated Onassis from a wealthy businessman to a figure of international intrigue. It was a deal, security for status, and both knew exactly what they were signing up for. The marriage wasn't without its challenges, especially when it came to family dynamics. Onassis, for his part, was great with Jackie's kids. Caroline and John Jr. took to him, charmed by his larger-than-life personality and the way he treated them like his own. He'd take them sailing on his yacht, the Christina, a floating palace with marble bathrooms and gold-plated fixtures, or let them run wild on Scorpios far from the paparazzi. Onassis had a knack for making the kids feel special, showering them with attention and spoiling them with gifts, from toys to exotic adventures. For Caroline, a shy preteen, and John Jr., a rambunctious 8-year-old, Onassis was a fun, larger-than-life figure who brought a bit of lightness to their world after years of loss. Jackie appreciated his warmth toward her kids, knowing they needed stability and a sense of safety after the trauma of their father's death. But not everyone in the family was on board. Onassis's daughter, Christina Onassis, was not here for Jackie. At 18, Christina was fiercely protective of her father and his legacy, and she saw Jackie as an outsider, a glamorous American who'd swooped in and changed the family dynamic. The tension was real. Christina, used to being the center of her father's world, wasn't thrilled about sharing him with a new wife and her kids. Their relationship was frosty at best, with clashes over everything from family time to Onassis's attention. Jackie, ever the diplomat, tried to bridge the gap, but Christina's resentment ran deep, and the two never truly clicked. It was a sore spot in an otherwise strategic partnership, a reminder that even Jackie's charm couldn't win everyone over. Life with Onassis was a whirlwind of luxury, and Jackie leaned into it. Her days were filled with globe-trotting adventures, jetting between Scorpios, Paris, New York, and Athens. She'd sail the Aegean on the Christina, a yacht so lavish it had its own seaplane and a mosaic-tiled pool. When she wasn't sailing, she was shopping, hitting boutiques in Paris for couture gowns, or scouring markets for antiques to add to her collection. Jackie had always loved the finer things, but with Onassis's fortune, estimated at $500 million, a massive sum in the 60s, she could indulge like never before. She'd drop thousands on a single dress or a rare piece of jewelry, earning whispers of extravagance from the press. But for Jackie, this wasn't just about spending. It was about living life on her terms, free from the constraints of her past. The world saw her sipping champagne in Monte Carlo or strolling through Capri. And while some called her a jet-setter, others saw a woman reclaiming her freedom after years of loss and scrutiny. The news of Jackie's remarriage hit the world like a thunderbolt, and the reactions were wild. The public, still enamored with her as America's grieving First Lady, was stunned. Headlines screamed with drama. "The gods are weeping," blared one paper, while another lamented, "America has lost a saint." To many, Jackie was still the untouchable widow of Camelot, a symbol of grace who belonged to the Kennedy legacy. Marrying a foreign billionaire, especially one with a playboy reputation, felt like a betrayal to some. The press had a field day, painting Onassis as a crude tycoon and Jackie as a gold digger chasing his fortune. Socialites whispered, fans sent angry letters, and even some Kennedys raised eyebrows, wondering why she'd chosen a man so different from JFK. But others saw it differently. Supporters praised her for choosing safety and independence, for refusing to stay trapped in America's mourning. The debate raged on talk shows and in living rooms, with Jackie's decision sparking everything from admiration to outrage. She didn't respond to the noise. She just kept living, head held high, proving once again that she played by her own rules. The marriage, though, wasn't all smooth sailing. By the early 1970s, cracks were showing. Onassis's health was declining, and his business empire was facing challenges. Rumors swirled that he was considering a divorce, frustrated by Jackie's spending and their increasingly separate lives. She in New York, he in Greece. The tension with Christina didn't help, adding strain to an already complex dynamic. But before any divorce could move forward, tragedy struck again. On March 15, 1975, Aristotle Onassis died in a Paris hospital at 69, felled by complications from myasthenia gravis, a neuromuscular disease. Jackie was by his side, but the marriage that had once been her escape was now another chapter of loss. Onassis's death left her a widow for the second time, but it also came with a massive inheritance, reportedly $26 million, plus a trust fund for her and the kids. It was a fortune that ensured her financial security, but for Jackie it was never about the money. It was about safety, freedom, and a chance to rebuild. In 1975, Jackie was 46, standing at a crossroads. The world still knows her as the glamorous First Lady who dazzled in the White House and the widow who faced tragedy with unbreakable resolve. After Onassis's death in March 1975, she's a widow for the second time, left with a massive inheritance, reportedly $26 million, plus a trust fund for her and her kids, Caroline and John Jr. But Jackie's not about to coast on that fortune. She's got fire in her soul, a drive to keep growing, and a desire to live life on her own terms. The tabloids are still obsessed, chasing her every move, but Jackie's ready to redefine herself. She's back in New York City, the place where she was born, raised, and always felt at home. This isn't just a return, it's a rebirth, a chance to build a life that's hers, not defined by her past as Mrs. Kennedy or Mrs. Onassis. Jackie's next move? She dives headfirst into a career that surprises everyone. She becomes a book editor at Doubleday, one of New York's top publishing houses. This isn't some vanity gig. Jackie's serious about it. Her love for books, art, and culture runs deep, going all the way back to her childhood days of devouring novels and scribbling poetry. At Doubleday, she's not just a celebrity name, she's a hands-on editor, rolling up her sleeves to work on manuscripts, scout new talent, and shape stories that matter. She starts as a consulting editor in 1975, but by 1978, she's a full-on associate editor, earning a modest $20,000 a year, a far cry from the millions she could have leaned on. Jackie's office is a cozy, book-filled space in Midtown Manhattan, where she pours her heart into projects that reflect her passions: art, history, biography, and culture. She edits books like The Power of Myth by Joseph Campbell, a groundbreaking exploration of storytelling, and works with authors like Michael Jackson, yes, that Michael Jackson, on his memoir, Moonwalk. She's got a knack for spotting potential, nurturing writers, and making every project shine with her meticulous touch. Her colleagues are floored by her work ethic. Jackie's not phoning it in. She's there, red pen in hand, poring over drafts late into the night, offering insights that make books better. She's known for her sharp eye, her ability to see the big picture while catching every detail, and her charm in convincing authors to trust her vision. She'd call writers personally, meet them for lunch, and make them feel like their work was the center of her world. At Doubleday, she's not just Jackie O the icon, she's Jackie the editor, respected for her talent, not her fame. The job gives her purpose, a way to channel her love for ideas into something tangible. It's also a quiet rebellion against the world's expectations. She's not content to be a trophy widow or a socialite. She's building a career, proving she's got the brains to match her legend. But work isn't the only thing defining this chapter. Jackie finds love again, this time with Maurice Tempelsman, a Belgian-born diamond merchant and financier who becomes her partner in every sense. Maurice in his 50s, when they grow close, is the opposite of Onassis's flashy vibe. He's understated, intellectual, and deeply loyal, with a quiet confidence that complements Jackie's own. They meet in the 1970s through New York's elite circles, and by the late 70s, they're inseparable, living together in Jackie's sprawling Fifth Avenue apartment overlooking Central Park. The place is a sanctuary, filled with books, art, and mementos from her travels. It's where Jackie hosts intimate dinners and raises Caroline and John Jr. She and Maurice also spend time at her Martha's Vineyard estate, a shingle-style retreat where they sail, read, and escape the city's buzz. Maurice is more than a partner. He's a confidant, a sounding board, and a steady presence for Jackie and her kids. He gets along great with Caroline and John Jr., offering them stability and support as they navigate their teens and early 20s. Unlike her marriage to Onassis, this relationship is private, grounded, and free from the tabloid frenzy, giving Jackie the peace she's craved. Jackie's not just living for herself, she's still fighting for causes that matter. Her passion for history and culture spills over into her work as a preservationist, and she throws her weight behind saving New York's architectural treasures. Back in the late 1960s, she was a key player in the fight to save Grand Central Terminal, the iconic train station that was at risk of being bulldozed for a skyscraper. Jackie didn't just sign petitions. She showed up, rallying support, writing op-eds, and using her star power to draw attention to the cause. She'd walk through the station's soaring concourse, pointing out its beaux-arts beauty, from the constellation ceiling to the marble floors, arguing it was a piece of New York's soul. Her efforts paid off. Grand Central was saved, designated a landmark in 1976, and Jackie's role made her a hero to preservationists. In the 1980s, she's at it again, taking on a proposed high-rise at Columbus Circle that threatened to cast shadows over Central Park. Jackie, a lifelong New Yorker who loved the park's green escape, wasn't having it. She joined protests, lobbied city officials, and helped stop the project, ensuring the park stayed a sanctuary for generations. These fights weren't just about buildings. They were about legacy, about protecting the beauty and history that defined her city. Life in New York is Jackie's groove. She's a fixture in Manhattan's cultural scene, attending ballet performances, museum galas, and literary events, always with that quiet elegance that turns heads. She's raising Caroline, now a student at Radcliffe, and John Jr., who's finding his own path with the same fierce love she's always shown. She's still a magnet for paparazzi, but she's mastered the art of dodging them, slipping in and out of her Fifth Avenue building with a scarf and sunglasses, keeping her private life just that, private. She travels too, hitting Paris for art auctions or the Greek islands for a dose of sun, always with Maurice by her side. Her life is full, work, love, family, and causes, but it's grounded in a way it wasn't during her jet-setting Onassis years. Jackie's not running anymore. She's building, living, and savoring the moments that matter. But in late 1993, everything changes. Jackie starts feeling off. Fatigue, swollen lymph nodes, a nagging sense that something's wrong. In January 1994, she gets the diagnosis, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, a type of cancer that hits hard and fast. At 64, she's facing her toughest battle yet. Jackie, ever private, keeps the news quiet, sharing it only with her closest circle, Maurice, Caroline, John Jr., and a handful of friends. She starts treatment, enduring chemotherapy and radiation with the same stoicism she showed in Dallas. But the cancer is aggressive, spreading quickly, and by spring it's clear the prognosis isn't good. Jackie, true to form, faces it with grace, focusing on her family and tying up loose ends. She spends her days at her Fifth Avenue apartment, surrounded by the books and art she loves, writing letters to her kids, and reflecting on a life that's been nothing short of extraordinary. Maurice is by her side, a constant source of comfort, while Caroline and John Jr. rally around her, their bond tighter than ever. On May 19th, 1994, at 10:15 p.m., Jackie passes away in her sleep at her Fifth Avenue apartment, surrounded by her loved ones. She's 64, and the world mourns the loss of a woman who's been a symbol of strength for decades. Her death is a quiet affair, just as she wanted, but it sends shockwaves globally. Tributes pour in from presidents, artists, and everyday people who saw her as an inspiration. Her funeral, held on May 23rd at St. Ignatius Loyola Church in Manhattan, is private, per her wishes, but it's broadcast nationwide, a nod to her enduring impact. President Bill Clinton attends, joining Caroline, John Jr., and Maurice in a small, somber ceremony filled with love and respect. The service is simple but poignant, with hymns and readings that reflect Jackie's faith and her love for beauty. She's laid to rest at Arlington National Cemetery beside JFK, under the eternal flame she lit 31 years earlier. Her headstone reads, Jacqueline Bouvier, Kennedy Onassis. But during the ceremony, the priest skips the Onassis part, a subtle tribute to her eternal role as America's most beloved First Lady. It's a final nod to the woman who captured hearts as Jackie Kennedy, the Queen of Camelot. This final chapter from 1975 to 1994 is Jackie at her most authentic. She wasn't just a former First Lady or a billionaire's widow. She was a woman who kept evolving, finding purpose in work, love in a new partnership, and meaning in fighting for history. Her battle with cancer showed the same courage she brought to every challenge, and her quiet exit left a legacy that's still alive today. From editing books to saving landmarks to raising her kids with love, Jackie O proved she was a force until the end. So, what do you think? Was this chapter the heart of Jackie's legend, or just the final note in her epic symphony? Drop your thoughts in the comments, smash that like button, and let's keep the convo going. Catch you in the next video.